understand. That's what I'm getting ready to do.
We are now recording again.
We haven't done that in the past. We haven't done that in the past. Do we need to do that? I'll just bring us back into open session.
Just the motion that says we
Certified. I'm gonna do the certified. Yeah, you good? Okay. Blackstone Town Council is now back in open session. Madam Clerk, will you read a motion for council to consider to certify these proceedings?
Yes, we need a motion to certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion at which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Is there such a motion? Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Nguyen, second. Is there any discussion? I ask for certification roll call, beginning with Mr. Page.
Certify.
Certify. Certify.
That motion carries 7-0. I will open the floor now for a motion to take up the RFP for the building formerly known as the LCCDC building. Council, what's your pleasure?
I move to reject the Spring Hill proposal to lease the LCDC building because the terms do not meet the standards set forth in the Virginia Code.
Ms. Williams has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller seconds. Is there any discussion?
What are the standards to bring it up to Virginia code?
For the standards.
Please, wait.
Yeah, was it 100% utilities and I think $500-600 a month of rent? Would that do it?
I think that would probably do it, yeah. I think that, because the issue here is that we can't make donations to a church. And under the terms as it currently reads, that's what this proposal would do. So I think what you just said, Mr. Page, would be sufficient.
All right, I'll make a substitute motion that we open the floor for any proposals to come forth with those terms. A 4-year term, or 5-year term for $500 a month with 100% utilities.
Let's get a second. Will you second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
And discussion is yours, Mr. Miller.
Okay, now, we're signing this agreement, if they accept the building as is, right?
As is building,
As
yes.
is.
That's in my motion, yeah.
Okay, so, in other words, if it's $500 and 100% of the electric bill, that is what we should.
As is for 5 years, yeah. Yeah.
Four.
Oh, sorry,
4 years.
I'll amend the motion. I'll amend the motion to 4 years, I'm sorry.
And the reason for that is because if we do it for 4 years, we don't have to do another RFP.
That's right.
That is correct. That is
And if there's anybody here who'd like to accept those terms,
Well,
I ask for the floor to
I'm
be
gonna
open.
ask council first. Members of council, we have a motion from Mr. Page to lease the building for $500,
Open the floor for proposals under those terms.
right?
Yeah.
100% of the electric bill for a 4-year term. Is there any discussion, council, or any questions?
Just wanted to be clear, the motion is to open the floor for anybody to accept a proposal under those terms.
So noted.
Yeah.
Hearing no discussion, I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
This motion carries 7-0. And with that being said, I will not take up the original motion. So,
You gotta open the floor.
well, I'm going to, but I'm dispensing of both these motions. So, motion is carried
Oh, yeah.
to open the floor for anyone that would like to engage with the town for the conditions set forth by Mr. Page, which is $500 monthly, 100% of the electric bill for a 4-year term, as the building sits today. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to discuss with council that proposal? Hearing none, we'll move on to the public hearing. Since we have not awarded the RFP tonight, I see no reason to take this ordinance up. We have, however, had the public hearing, and if we do need to bring it back up, that step has been taken. Mr. Harf?
It might be cleaner just to move to not adopt the ordinance, just so it's clear for the.
I'll be delighted. Is there a motion to not adopt this ordinance? Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Page, second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Correct? All right,
Can I say something before we?
absolutely.
Listen, okay, now, we done sit out here, we done talk. So I think we owe these people from Springfield a reason as to why we rejected this, about the legal situation at all. So there won't be any hard feelings.
I agree. Mr. Pastor, would you mind coming forward, please?
I can listen from back.
Okay. Does anybody, do you want me to speak for the council, or someone, would someone care to brief the church on our decision?
I mean, their proposal says that they're,
Attorney though.
I know, I just wanna note, since you asked the question,
Okay.
the proposal says that they seek to negotiate a lease agreement that meets legal requirements, and we just gave them those legal requirements, and they weren't interested, so we can't pass something that's not up to at least those minimum standards.
So if, my interpretation of what's happened tonight, Pastor, is that it is unlawful to make for the town to make a donation to the church. So if the town is paying any portion of the utility bill, then that would have to be considered a donation. If we rent the building out for a figure that is substantially below market value, that is considered a donation. And from the advice of the attorney, the council has decided not to enter into an agreement that would violate state code by making this donation to the church. Is that pretty much what,
Right, but we did
Counsel?
offer terms that were,
but that's why we offered the terms that we thought would meet the standard legally, and that would be 100% of the light bill and $500 per month. So that's where we are. It's not closed. If you, basically the council is offering the church 4-year lease,
anybody,
for
for anybody.
anybody, but no,
Right
can
now.
we offer the church?
It's a 4-year lease.
We can offer the church, we don't have to do an RFP, we don't have- that's why a 4-year lease. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be the council wouldn't be very amenable to give another 4 years, but, we're doing what we can legally, and trying to do our best to do it right. And so, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay,
Thank you all for your time.
yes, sir. Mr. Miller, do you have anything else?
No, but I just think that, I want them to have the full understanding as to why this happened. Because I don't want nobody to say that it was some hanky-panky going on.
Okay, did I adequately explain it?
In all the council, we all heard the same thing,
Okay,
so.
so did I adequately explain that for your needs?
Yeah, you explained it for my needs, I just hope they understand.
Well,
Yeah.
if they don't, I have an open door policy. I've
Because
told
as
them.
I say, I'm tired of dealing with it.
I
I'm
understand.
sure the council,
Well,
so we came up with the proposal, so.
well, now here it is 10 after 8, and,
Yeah,
and
and
you're gonna fuss at
basketball.
me about a basketball
That's right.
game, so we're gonna move on. Members of council, you have before you a set of minutes from last month's regular meeting. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve and dispense with the reading of those.
Mr. Nash moves and Mr. Almond seconds to approve these minutes.
May I make a quick, I did notice today that under the minutes, last month, I have Mr. Miller motion and seconded, so I did correct that, okay, just so y'all see that.
Yes, ma'am.
So I did correct that.
Mr. Nash, will you include that in your motion, please?
So amended.
Mr. Almond seconds. Is there any more discussion or questions about the minutes?
Will the June 5th meeting notes, they'll be sent out too, won't they?
Absolutely.
When they're finished.
When they're done, of course. I got you. I just asked. I mean, I see them here, but, all right, guys.
Any more discussion?
Thank you for calling me out.
Mr. Nash moves, Mr. Almond seconds to approve the minutes and dispense with the reading. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is visitors. There are 2 opportunities to address council. Now is the first time. We have 2 visitors on the agenda. After we finish with these visitors, I ask for anyone else that would like to address council. Our first visitor tonight is Miss Nancy Alexander, and she is the new DBI Executive Director, and she's accompanied by the lovely Chairman Green. Also our First Lady. So I'm gonna sleep on the couch after that, but please come forward. A little levity is good with brevity too.
Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You haven't caught us at our best, but we're glad you're here.
Business has to be done, right?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity. I won't take a ton of your time. I handed out a little report earlier. I started as executive director last Wednesday, the 12th, so I haven't really gotten my feet down yet, but we have a few things going on. We've already had a first board meeting. We haven't had a design committee meeting. My goal right now is to meet with stakeholders and get to know the community and the downtown merchants and retailers. So that's what I'll be working on in the next weeks ahead. Some of the projects that were completed prior to my getting here was planting the planters and the flowers on Main Street. I'm sure y'all have seen those. The pots that look really good. And everybody's stepping up to keep those watered right now, so that's great. We have a downtown investment grant application out to the Department of Housing and Community Development for banners and promotional brochure for downtown. That sometimes takes a while for the governor to announce, so we're in the process of waiting for that to come through. And upcoming projects that we're working on, Downtown Square Pavilion. This morning we met, talked about a tree grant to look at the street trees on Main Street. Groversity seminar, which is going to be a really exciting small business opportunity this fall for education and business development. And then, of course, our fundraising sponsorship campaign. There is a little flyer on Groversity behind the page that articulates more what will be happening there. And you guys have already done an amazing job, and I'm delighted to be a part of the program.
Outstanding. Do you have any questions, council, for Ms. Alexander?
Welcome to the town.
Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Page, took the words out of my mouth.
Appreciate y'all putting your faith in me.
Well,
I'll do my best.
Your resume and your record speaks for itself, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank
And
you.
and anything we can do to help you, we're here for you.
I appreciate it. I look forward to working with y'all. I am gonna run out today because I have a long drive home. But
Okay.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
Pleasure to meet you.
Madam
Thank you.
Chairman, do you have anything for council? Yes.
No,
Hello?
I didn't look at the agenda. I was gonna ask about the plantings. I didn't know if you wanted to, are y'all?
No, with the link to this, if you could just put it in her report next month, I'd appreciate it. We're way behind.
He'll report it in the new business, so I'll let you know.
Next week? I was gonna say, if you wanted us to continue to plant the pots, the design committee of DBI would like to do that.
Okay.
Instead, and not the welcome signs, but the pots.
So do you want us to reject the bids that we have?
I'm just offering that. That's up to them.
Okay.
Mr. Alman, you take the lead on that at the right time? Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
All right.
Great to
thank
see you.
But we
Appreciate it.
enjoy doing that for the community.
Mr. Hanratty, did you have any other comments besides the request for this? I believe this is a benign issue. I'll take care of it right now. The Blackstone Chamber is requesting to waive the yard sale fee during the 100-mile yard sale on Saturday, July 6th. What's the pleasure, council? Mr. Nash moves. May I have a second? Mr. Alman seconds. Any discussion?
I've got a quick question.
Okay.
Hey, Philip, how much do we make on yard sale fees a year? Do you know? Top of your head, roundabout?
I'm gonna guess it's,
$20?
yeah, I mean, $100 or $150.
I would ask, I just, you know,
Really nominal figure.
it's really a big government thing to have a permit to have a yard sale. Is there a way that we can maybe send this to a committee to look at possibly revising that particular permit?
I don't think we'd,
Budget up, man.
$20? I know, just,
A little bit more discussion, especially if somebody decided to have a yard sale every day.
yeah, that's, I mean, I don't think we'd do it
I
for
think
the
that would be
money.
different, yeah, but we would probably notice that. But if that would fall under business license, so, you know, we could get that, yeah.
I'll refer your questions now to the Health and Ordinance Committee. It's Chairman Alman, is that correct?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Mr. Nash has moved, Mr. Alman second to waive the yard sale fee for this event. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries 7-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, that's for everybody that day, right? Not
That is
just for-
correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Chief Bears, would you come up? please, sir. Members of council, you have before you the chief's report. Chief Bears is here tonight in place of Chief Tomer. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Old business is still old business. Haven't had any new changes on the radio system or the fire code. Philip, have you checked into the hydrant maintenance and coloring stuff? I know you've been busy. but-
Our expectation is to bid it out in July.
Get it out in July. Awesome. We put in for 3 grants within the last month and a half, so hopefully we'll be able to hear back from them soon to offset some funding. Dion's not here tonight. Thank you all for being there for the push-in for the Tower 6. We had a great training last weekend on that. It was us, South Hill, and Farmville came down, brought their towers too, did some training all throughout the town. So thank you all for letting us do that. Engine 6.2 is back now. They brought it down to AES and found a couple more things wrong with it and got that back, and our tanker is out. Spoke to Tim today, and the tanker looks like it'll be back next week. Fire department has two tankers. One is a 3,000-gallon tanker, and one is like a 1,200-gallon tanker. They let us borrow their 1,200-gallon tanker while ours is out, so kudos to them. Some classes coming up put on by our training captain starting next weekend. Blood drive's going to be June 28th from 12 to 5 at the fire station. June 24th is going to be our training meeting. This month, Farm Bureau is coming in to do a class on grain silo calls for us. So that's going to be a great thing for us. It's going to be a county-wide training. I think there's going to be some farmers in that too, so it's going to be a county-wide deal. This month, Ben Howe got his life membership, 20 years. Kudos to him. Eric Stiles is 24 years. Tim Howe gets 23. Jacob Watkins, 5 years. Bianca Repollet, 2 years. Daniel Falwell at 10 years. And Tessa Gilmore, she has 1 year, and she just completed her Firefighter 1 and passed both of her practicals and her written portion of that. And we welcomed Alan Strickland onto probationary status.
Members of council, could I get a round of applause for Mr. Ben Hogg, Mr. Eric Stiles, and Mr. Tim Hall for their 20-plus years? Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything else, Chief?
Nothing at all.
Members of council, do you have any questions for the chief before he leaves? Thank you so much,
Thank
as
you all.
always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got in front of myself. My great-grandmother told me many times, the hurrier I go, the further behind I get. So she was right. Is there anyone else at this time would like to come speak to the council? Thank y'all so much for, thank you so much for indulging me with my mistake here. It's great to see
Thank
y'all
you.
again.
Yeah, I was peeping around the corner, but I saw Councilman
A little birdie told me
Williams.
I
I think
messed
she
up.
tipped you off, let you know.
I'm subject to do it. I'm subject to mess up.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, we are back checking to see what the status is on the technicians or the engineers or somebody checking on about the speed bumps. Have they had the meeting? What's going on with that? The speed bumps on Luke Street.
I'm a little on overload here a little bit. Have we referred to street and light,
Street and lights.
Second committee, Mr. Miller,
Mr. Allman?
Mr. Alman,
But didn't you say they were supposed to be here in 2 weeks from the last meeting?
yeah, we're trying to get through the budget, do 3 or 4 meetings, and then we'll have it. We can do it the last week in June or first week in July, whatever you want.
So right now, we've been really occupied with the budget. We're gonna have 3 meetings from now to the end of the month just for the budget. Tonight and 2 more meetings, and what he's saying is that Mr. Miller, after that, Mr. Miller will call a meeting, and then we'll go from there.
So in other words, got to be another meeting before they start doing any work then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then council will have to authorize it. The committee will make a recommendation to the council, and then the council will act then. So the budget's gonna put you back a few weeks. I'm just being honest, okay? Hopefully, we can give this time next month. I don't know exactly when the date is, the 22nd.
Yeah.
We'll meet here for the regular meeting on the 22nd of July, 15th. The 15th we'll meet, less than a month. And hopefully by then, we'll have the committee meeting, a report, and we can act on it.
Okay, so I can get some more information on the 15th. That's what you're saying.
Is a good possibility that Mr. Miller's committee will make a recommendation and council will vote on it. On how many, if we're gonna put them, what, whatever, so.
And Mr. Crowley, I can let you know when the committee meeting is if you wanna.
Please.
We're gonna ask.
And
We're gonna ask other
this young lady is
people
with
in the
us too,
neighborhood.
Emma Jones.
Yeah, we already have petitions.
Anytime you want,
Yeah, we just can't, the government doesn't, unfortunately, the government has processes, and we're sort of halfway in the process, okay? But I
Nate.
greatly appreciate y'all's patience,
Nate,
okay?
we will be setting up a meeting.
Mr. Miller says he's assuring
We
you,
setting up a meeting, I'm just waiting on him to give me, or him or Jennifer to tell us what we're gonna do.
I'll set it up.
Sometime after.
well, I want you to come back. I'm
Thank you,
glad you're
Jennifer.
here. Won't you stay and listen to the rest of us, the rest of the meeting?
Today.
Thank y'all so much. Is there anyone else that would like to address council?
Jennifer,
Jennifer,
if you could make it after 4, that'd be great.
Anyone else like to address council? Let me see if I can get back on track. Again, after the meeting, we'll have another time when citizens may address the council. Members of council, you have before you 2 batches of bills. The first batch has been paid, but needs council approval. These bills total $568,531.17. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Miller moves. May I have a second?
Second.
And Ms. Nguyen, second. Is there any questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gormers?
$8,628.32 for an electric bill. Is this for?
We're on the first page. We're on the first batch of bills. It is, my bad. Where is it? I stand
Take a
corrected.
drink of water, buddy. You'll be all right.
Southside Electric, $8,628.32.
is that the airport?
Is that for this bill?
Conglomeration of all bills.
Everywhere.
All right, but then we got $29,851.90 going, including electricity too.
Police station, all that good stuff.
Fireplace.
Okay. Paid to the town of Blackstone.
Any other questions?
That says
Mr.
it all.
Nash? You finished, Mr. Gormers?
Yeah, for
I'm
now.
gonna get a drink of water by Mr. Nash. Good.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Treescapes, tree removal services, $15,200. Is that for Dillard
6th Street,
and Tavern?
One of them, Sixth Street,
6th Street.
where we took the trees down to
In that ditch?
move that power line and all that. That was half of it, the other half was part of the weatherization project that we did on Patterson Street.
Would that be reimbursed?
So
Or
it-
that portion of it?
Did weatherization program.
Okay. There's one other one is, fuel shortage.
Fuel what?
We had on here fuel shortage.
Our, town fuel pumps, the alarm system wouldn't work anymore, so we didn't realize we ran out of fuel, and so we had to use, what is,
Food barn,
Food barn.
I think it was only a very few number of
Yeah, it was
people
only
that actually got.
I think it was
$160, but it was,
most of
I've
the
never seen
buses
that.
are PV here.
Okay.
Any other questions, council? Mr. Miller has moved, Ms. Nguyen is second to approve the batch of bills for $568,531.17. Ask for roll call vote beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0.
Got one question.
Okay, we'll go back.
Did that come under or within the budget? I see
A little bit over, but not terribly, I think budget. The amount of money we set aside was $120,000 for it.
Okay.
And I think if you took the engineering and the work, I think it exceeded. But not by much. National will tell you, maybe about $5,000.
And Jackie was just sending that to us, just the breakdowns on that.
Anything else, Mr. Nash?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right, members of council, the second batch of bills need to be approved and also need to be paid, and they're in the amount of $779,328.72. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Mr. Nash moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Page, second. Is there any questions or discussion about this batch of bills? Hearing none, I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. We'll move on now to appropriations. Mr. Manager, would you present the appropriations that you wish to have approved, sir?
I can present them, but I prefer if Jackie will present them to you, if you can come up with the podium. The first appropriation is for the airport lighting project. I can share that with you, and then she'll share, and this is good exercise for her, and let her make presentation.
So the first one is for the airport capital. Any of the grant funding that we got for the taxiway and apron lighting was not in the budget. So I'm just putting that revenue in the budget and matching the expenditures in the budget.
There's no extra money coming out of the general fund, just transfer.
Any of the match came out of the airport
Yes.
fuel
But
sale.
not $88,000 worth.
No.
The majority of that was over. Or the,
I move to approve of this appropriation in the amount of $88,506.01.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Nash moves, Mr. Alderman second. May I have, is there any discussion, council, or questions? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. Is it just the one appropriation?
There's another one.
I'm sorry, I'm about 3 steps in front of you, so
That's
go ahead.
That's okay. So this one is just for insurance proceeds. The 2014 Dodge Charger, the PD's Dodge Charger, hit a deer and was totaled. So I'm just bumping up that revenue, showing that revenue, and then bumping up the expenditure of vehicles.
And that's for total loss in the vehicle, correct?
We got 9,100.
well, that's the total check we got.
That's the total check we got back.
I know, but it was a
But
total
we,
loss.
we had a deductible,
Yeah.
and then we also decided to keep the vehicle on there.
We kept it for scrap, yes. So
It
we'll
wasn't
get
part
money
of
for
the guys
that.
at the shop, one of the cab parts on it.
I move to approve of this appropriation $9,101.67.
Mr. Nash has moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to unfinished business. Unfinished business number 1 is Lakeview Cemetery Policy. Councilman Page has requested that this matter be on the agenda. What you got, Mr. Page?
I was just gonna ask if, council or the mayor would send this over to the Cemeteries and Property Committee to review this policy. There are things that we had said in the last meeting, with that request that, we said that had to be done before we could, for instance, I think one of the things that was being said is that it's personal property and you gotta have the owner's permission, but you gotta also ask us. So I didn't see that in our policy. Like, hey, you can place them down if you have permission. I wanted to see if you guys would send that over to review to see if it needs to be revised.
Council have any interest in me, referring this? Is there any interest in me referring this? I'm not hearing any, Mr. Page. Move on to the next item. Item number 2, the manager is seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with Summit Design to update our zoning ordinances and maps. These are activities that would not exceed $20,000. Mr. Van Orbeck?
And I did have, one thing, I think Mr. Page and I talked a little bit earlier today, and I think he's right. The discussions that I had with Summit Engineering, came on the heels of, a pretty, heated BZA meeting. And if you look at the bottom item or, activity or task, it says legal process of BZA. They were very concerned, but I think we've resolved that matter with a sign setback requirement, so I think your point pretty valid. I went back and reviewed it, and I would ask the council just, if agreeable, make a motion, but leave that section out of there and say maybe not to exceed $16,000 each time. But I think we've resolved the illegal process of BZA where they were not holding a standard of a variance. They weren't necessarily holding the standards of variances that are specific to the state code and what their function is, and I think we resolved a lot of the pressure on them having to vote on things. But at the same time, I think we also, established some side yard setbacks that I think can
Resolve.
solve a lot of that. So I think your point was, correct, Mr. Page, and you guys can make it not to exceed $16,000.
And your 16,000 included in this budget.
It is.
I would say 15,850, which is the 20,000 minus the 4150.
So moved.
Second.
So moved for the, what figure? For the 16,000?
$15,850. So,
Mr. Nash moves, may I have a second?
second.
Mr. Page, second. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
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 This motion carries 7-0. Unfinished business number 3 is the Dillard Street ditch bids. Mr. Manager?
On June 11th, town staff opened bids for the installation of approximately 161 linear feet of culvert on property located on Dillard Street. The bid tabulation is attached. 3 bids were received. After speaking with the lowest responsive bidder, he has requested to withdraw his bid as he did not include the complete amount of fill material to complete the project, but included a per ton price. And if you look at his actual bid, he wrote $24 a cubic yard is what the additional cost would be to provide all the backfill for the project. As you can remember, B&B wrote the specifications, conferred with B&B, and B&B said no, that bid price should have included. We don't have a bid bond or anything to enforce this to happen. But because it's a $30,000 split, I talked to Mr. Gilmore, I've talked to Treescapes, I have not talked to the individual from Pearson Construction. My recommendation at this point, because of the confusion and he's withdrawn, and because there's such a gap between the lowest and the next lowest bid, I would recommend rebidding it with more detail. I think the second bidder was confident, and he understood that the cost of the fill material needed to go with the pipe. But we'll add a caveat to the next time we bid it out. And that'll be a lump sum total with no accommodation for additional materials.
Members of council, you've heard the manager report on this bid. What's your pleasure?
So you're saying the reason we wouldn't just go with the next bid of 87,629?
You can, it's just $30,000 difference. I just don't know if we'd get Gilmore to bid it again at 65,000 or 70,000.
Looked like in your
You can accept the second bid.
Looked like in your commentary, it wasn't clear, possibly, I didn't read it, that it had to have fill material included. So,
We did a base project and then said for the additional material, and it's a pretty deep ditch if you guys have been over to look at it, it's a significant ditch. He wanted to be paid additional for the amount of material that he had to put in the ditch to cover the pipe.
So what about Treescapes? Are they including everything with this
And
87,000?
he's solid with his bid.
What's your pleasure,
I
council?
can make a motion that we take the second bid from Treescapes.
All right, Mr. Miller has moved that we award the bid to Treescapes in the amount of $87,629.84. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Gormus has second.
I got a secondary motion.
Mr. Page, you have the floor.
A secondary motion that we reject all bids.
Mr. Page moves that we reject all bids in the form of a secondary motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hallman has second. Is there any discussion on the secondary motion? I'll have to take the secondary motion up first. That motion is to reject all bids. And I'll ask, is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We're rejecting the bids and you want to rebid them?
I've just rejected the bids. I don't personally believe that this ditch is one that needs a $80,000 investment into. It's not flooding. Hang on a second. Hang on, I'm talking.
Wait a
You can
minute,
have the
I'll
floor.
run the meeting.
I'm sorry. I've looked at this ditch. It's not flooding any streets. There is no erosion around any buildings. It has no issue to public safety. There are a lot of other ditches that could use our attention. For me, my personal thing, looking at this particular ditch, I will not be voting for the project.
All right, if you don't mind, we have a motion and a second, and Mr. Miller would like to comment too. You have a comment, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is another thing that's been lagging for the last 2 years. We voted to do this. We said we were gonna do it. So now I don't see any point of putting it off.
All right, well, we'll open that back up, but we have a motion and a second to reject all bids. And then, of course, I give you the floor if you wanna continue, okay? But I need to get this taken care
I
of.
do want to say some of that. 5 people up here did not vote to do this. This was done by a previous council. There's 5 people on this diocese right now that never voted to do this project. We voted to put it out to bid. It was done by a previous
Vote on it.
council.
Let's vote on it.
Yep, if you don't mind, Mr. Page, I have a motion, it's properly second. Is there any more discussion about rejecting?
My opinion is that we shouldn't make motions and decisions based on personal opinion,
Right.
but actually the professionals that looked at it and bid it, he bid $87,000 for a reason. The work needs to be done.
So noted.
I don't think the professionals bid on the merit of the project, they just bid how much it would cost.
Yeah.
It's a project.
Our point is the discussion of the
It's washing away
merits
the
of the
man's
project.
land, and it's
That's
been
our job.
ongoing for some time.
I have a, comment.
Ms. Williams?
So, Mr. Page, what you're saying is that if the previous council voted on something, the new council have an opinion to reject that?
They can, yeah.
Absolutely.
It happens every
They
day.
can,
Yeah,
but I
well,
think that's wrong when we already agreed.
Right, but I have to go
And we
back to my.
promised that our word is our
And
bond.
I get that, but the public has voted new members in, and I have to go back to my constituents and say, hey, I spent $90,000 of your money on a ditch that had nothing to do with public safety, and I'm not prepared to do that. If a road was flooded, or a home was in danger, or the ditch wasn't serving its purpose, and it had an impact on multiple homes, I would do it. But this ditch, to me, would improve the property owner's land value and its square footage of usable space, and that is something that a homeowner should pay to pipe in. It is not affecting the community.
All right, Mr. Page, you made a great point. Is there any other discussion before I take up the motion?
I have one more thing to
Yes,
say.
ma'am.
I think, that's your opinion. You said that was your opinion, but it's not the professional opinion
I understand.
of somebody, the contractor or the bidder.
The contractor just votes on the scope of the project that we give them. They don't say, yeah, it needs to be done or don't.
All right, well, I'm gonna let everybody have their turn. Are y'all finished? Okay, so Mr. Page has moved and Mr. Almond is second to reject all bids for 109 South Dillard Street. I ask for a roll call vote and that is, to make it clear, is to reject all bids. Mr. Page?
Aye.
Nay.
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 Abstain.
All right, so what does that give us?
3-3.
3-3-1.
It's a tie.
I'm gonna vote no and we'll take it up. So all the bids have not been rejected, okay? So I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve this, go back to the original motion to approve Treescapes Incorporated for $87,629. Is there a motion? So Mr. Miller moved, Mr. Gorman second. Is there any other discussion? I ask for a roll call vote for this with Mr. Page.
Nay.
Aye.
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 That motion fails 4-3. So
That motion passed.
Passes.
no, sir, it fails. It fails. You have to have 5 to expend $100,000. I mean, $10,000. So I'll explain to the audience and I'll explain to y'all too at the same time. There are several things that council must have a 2/3 majority to pass. Ordinances, anything that the council spends over $10,000. And this bid is $87,629. So I would need 5 affirmative votes. And I don't have 5 affirmative votes, I have 4. So the motion fails. So what do we do?
What happens now? Put it off of bed again?
It'll be a third motion.
I would entertain a motion to put it out to bid.
I'll make a motion that we put this job back off the bed.
Miller moves to rebid under the caveats that the town manager explained. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Williams, second.
I have a secondary motion.
All right, Mr. Page, you have a secondary motion.
A motion that we postpone this item on the agenda until the August meeting. As it's not in the budget, we'll have to figure
It
it out.
is.
It
There's-
is in the budget.
There is.
Easy, easy.
There's 80 of the
This
140,000
project's in the
still
budget?
left.
It's in the budget?
Yeah.
Still move to postpone it to next month.
Is there a second to postpone this item until August regular meeting? Is that what you said?
August regular meeting.
August regular meeting. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. I'll go back to Mr. Miller's
I have,
motion.
I have another secondary motion.
Yep.
I motion to postpone this item till the month of September's regular meeting of 2024.
You've heard Mr. Page's motion to suspend, to postpone this until September's meeting. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. I'll return to Mr. Miller's.
I have another secondary motion. I motion that we postpone this item till October of 2024.
I got a question. How many secondary motions can a person make?
And we're gonna go month by month till we get to
I
December.
mean, has anybody ever tested that water?
Has anybody ever tested their water? Because this is 3 secondary votes on
Right,
one.
well, let me tell you what I do know. I do know that the council can move forward after this vote. But you will have to vote to move forward. You understand what I'm saying?
Still be in discussion for the first motion?
Well, I have a secondary motion. I'll go back to
I think I'm
discussion.
allowed to filibuster.
Well, we're not gonna do it
It's
in
called
here.
filibuster.
Filibuster on a town
Absolutely.
council meeting.
Absolutely. You're about to spend you're about to spend more money on a project that doesn't have the votes to get it done.
I'm sorry, I don't.
This doesn't have the
I'm gonna,
Motion dies.
anybody gonna second
is there a
that motion?
second for what was the month?
Postponing to October.
Postponing to October. Council, I would entertain a motion to move forward with Mr. Miller's, motion to rebid and Ms. Williams'
I have
second.
a secondary motion.
Can we have discussion on Mr. Miller's seconded motion that's been seconded?
Well, if you don't stop this by motion, it's gonna continue. So before he made a secondary motion, that's the only mechanism that I know to keep us here all night.
But at this point, I've said I have a secondary motion. I motion that we postpone this until the November 2024 council meeting.
Is there a second?
Sure, second for discussion.
Second.
All right, now
All right, so hold on. So the motion is by Mr. Page and seconded by Mr. Almond to postpone until November meeting. You have the floor, sir.
thank you. Are we all ready? Okay. I don't think this project's ever gonna come in under $10,000, which means that I don't think there's ever gonna be 5 votes to do it. So we can rebid it if you want, but it's just spending more money to do it.
And that's why I did what I did.
I mean, that's what we wanna do and waste more money, we can do that, but
We still have the money in the $140,000 that was spent on Northwest Avenue and Forest Drive that totaled about 60 of the 140. There's 80,000 left of that money to
Yeah.
be used for
But-
ditches, and that was agreed to.
This is
who's
y'all's
agreed to
decision.
it?
Hold on.
spend that money.
I have the floor. This is gonna be your decision, but I wanna clarify. Yes, the money's in the budget. Yes, he has the cash set aside, but you have to appropriate by 2/3 vote to release that money if it's over $10,000.
And right now, we have a
Okay.
major
Does that
problem.
make sense?
No.
We have a
Well,
major
that's the
soft,
law, so.
we have a major software problem in there. We have modem problems. It's gonna be $100,000 to fix. That taxpayer money could go to other projects that are affecting the whole community. And to spend more money to bid it out is the reason why I did what I just did.
Well,
It's
you
not
made-
because I'm upset with any of you guys.
Okay, well, you've made
I'm
it
trying
really
to save
clear,
money.
and you made it clear, Mr. Allman has the floor.
Again, I don't think there's gonna be a vote to do it. I respect everybody's opinion up here. I respect what you're saying, Mr. Morris. But at the end of the day, you gotta have 5 votes to spend more than $10,000, and that's to be responsible for the taxpayer money. Make sure that we all agree on
That
it.
$140,000 was part of grant money, okay? It was part of grant money
Part of grant money
that was
received for another
appropriated,
project.
for Northwest and Forest
They
Drive.
paid us back for the reservoir
ditches.
project. It
For
wasn't
an
a grant.
aerator.
Wasn't a grant
Part of the $520,000.
that we received as to pay us back in the form of a grant to do the aerator project. That's where the money came from.
It wasn't for that project, and
I think there was some discussion of whether.
Wasn't the
Agreed-
grant,
it
wasn't the
was agreed
grant like the
upon
ARPA money?
That it would be used for ditches.
The ARPA
It
money was given,
agreed upon to be used
was
for ditches.
given to the council for your discretion to use as you please, but the money that you're talking about, the manager was wise in applying for a grant, but we were thinking we were gonna get a loan, so that $500,000 paid, we paid back the line of credit.
I understand all that.
So we
Mark.
use that money to do the reservoir.
During
Just a point of
appropriation.
clarity, that's all, sir.
Yeah, during the explanation of appropriations, I raised the issue about this 140 because it wasn't on the list, and it was brought to the surface that it would be used for ditches, and that was the way it was.
I think that was a discussion up here between some
No, it
people.
was said. Now, I mean, I'm gonna say this.
Oh, we ever voted on
And
it.
I'm through with this, just like I'm through with it. You know, you guys sit up here and you know, you go out here to these people and you grin up in their face. But when you get back here, you change your mind. Now, it was said that we were gonna do this man's ditch. Now, all of a sudden, you create other things. So, you know, we got to sit up here and take the blame because you all don't want to do it. This personal thing that you got against people should stop. And I say this to all council.
I don't even know the guy.
If you got a personal thing, you know, leave it outside.
Mr. Miller, all due respect, I've been.
If that's the, Jake, let me talk.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Alman has the floor.
No, wait a minute, I was talking, how's he gonna, oh,
Are you finished?
no, I'm,
Okay,
yeah, I'm
if you're
I'm
finished,
I'm
go ahead.
finished, I'm
Go
finished,
ahead.
I'm finished.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, with all due respect, I've been voting against this, for this ditch
I
since I've been
understand
up
you,
here.
Jake. I know you
I've been
have.
up here voting against it. I will shake Mr. Arm's hand and tell him I apologize, but I do not believe this is a good use of taxpayer money. I've been saying that since the beginning. This isn't anything new. This isn't anything of who you know and who you don't know. I don't believe this is appropriate use, especially when we're in a budget year where we're trying to find every dollar we can for all of these other projects that, in my opinion, have more merit than a private ditch. That's all I have to say.
As long as you can stand the pressure from these citizens out here, because we are not living up to nothing we say we gonna do. So when you start getting the pressure from these people out here, then you.
I'm doing exactly what I said what I was gonna do, which was
Well,
vote
Jack, I
against it.
understand you, because you and Eric have said from the start that you did not support it. I respect you for that, you being truthful, but throwing all this other stuff in here is, to me, is uncalled for. Now, so what are we gonna do? But what are we gonna do? We gonna take this $87,000 and put it in there and use it for something to try to bring the budget back up? Come on, let's be for real now.
For once, we could save some money. We got $20 million
Well, you gotta
budget with
save
the same
for-
amount of people we had 15 years ago. We have the same amount of people in this town we had 15 years ago, and our budget is triple.
And we have a budget that's 76% of Farmville's budget, which is 3 times the size of our locality.
Farm doesn't have electric system, I explained it to you.
Right, I mean, you know, I think the thing
They
that
do
I'm
have a
looking at
utility
is
department
this
though.
way. And like Jake and Eric said, you know, they have been against this project all the time. So,
I've never once said I was for it.
you
All
don't
right,
count.
Mr. Miller, that's totally out of line.
I
sir.
said I don't count.
Oh, you do count.
No, I said I don't
Well,
count.
you do count.
But
You rub me all the time.
you thought I said that.
Well, I misunderstood. I'm hard of hearing.
Let's get that straight.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, then we're gonna move on.
Please. I think that if we voted something as a council, whether new council come on or not, we have to do what we said we're gonna do. The money was put there for that reason. You know, we're voting not to do it for all of a sudden because Mr. Page and some other council members don't want to do it. And they may want to do some other dishes that they feel is more important, but I may feel that they're not. So we're gonna have this
Every time.
every time. It's ridiculous.
You know, to Ms. Williams'
It's
point,
wasting our time and wasting the citizens' time.
technically,
That's how
that
I
motion
feel.
still stands from the previous council, and the money's there to do it now, so why wouldn't they go on and do it?
Well, let me make something.
Unless
hold
somebody
on,
wants to
hold on.
rescind
Let
that.
me make something real clear to you. This is y'all's decision, and I'm not gonna get into it, but
But-
you can change because Philip and Eric and I worked 2 years on a project with a contractor for the armory. It was signed, sealed, delivered. The new council came in and killed it right there, okay? So I had 7-0 vote from the council, and a new council came in and killed it.
That's history.
Water over the dam, but I'm just saying, you may change, the council is a continuing body. You may change your mind, you may do anything you wish. I'm telling you though, to appropriate over $10,000, I need 5 votes. That's the facts, okay?
Man, we got a budget with $7,000 in there for dog supplies for a police dog, and we ain't even got a police dog.
Well, we're gonna have a public hearing on the budget and be glad to take up any of your concerns. Be glad to. Okay, so the motion that the motion is, Mr. Miller has made is to rebid this contract on, stating about the fill dirt and
Wow.
getting with the engineer and making sure that we can put out an accurate bid. Ms. Williams has seconded that.
Well, we're on a secondary motion to
Okay,
postpone.
what's the secondary motion?
It was
Did
to
you have a
postpone
secondary
to
motion?
November. Postpone to November. That's what you seconded, yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, well, he's removed that, so we don't have discussion. So, the motion on the floor is from Mr. Miller to rebid the project per the town manager specs, and it's been seconded by Ms. Williams.
I have a secondary motion.
Okay, Mr. Page?
A motion that we postpone this item to December of 2024.
Do you have any clarity for this?
I'm gonna second it so we can vote on it, and how's that?
Okay.
I'll second that filibuster motion.
All right, so we have a second now. We have a second. Let me handle it, if you don't mind. We have a second to postpone until when, Mr. Page?
December of 2024.
December of 2024. And Mr. Gormas is properly second. Is there any discussion? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Motion fails 6-1. You are now restricted from bringing that up again until the following meeting. Mr. Miller has a motion on the floor to rebid this contract. Mr. Gormas has seconded.
And I
Is
have
there
a
any
secondary
discussion?
motion. I have a motion that we postpone the item to January of 2025's meeting, and I am only restricted to bring it up since what failed was to postpone it to December of 2024.
Well, you need to get an attorney, and he might be able to tell you, but we're moving forward.
Well,
So,
well,
the motion on the floor,
we have an attorney here. I've made a motion, and it's a proper motion. I have not re-motioned to pass something that's already that failed.
Please speak if you can.
If it's council's pleasure to move on, I think that what I know right now sitting here is that the council can make a motion to move on and not hear any more motions on the subject. I don't know about.
well, that's the motion I'm gonna
I
ask.
make a motion to move on.
Ms. Nguyen moves that we move on from this with no further motions. And is there a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Miller, second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. There's a motion on the floor from Mr. Miller, seconded properly by Mr. Gormas to rebid the project per
We
the
just
town
moved on,
manager.
we just made a motion to move on from the whole item, from the whole
Your
item.
postponement, sir.
No. The motion was to move on from the entire item.
I did. I made the motion to move on.
From the entire
Move
item.
on from the postponement issues.
Postponement issue.
From the postponement.
I put up there now.
Well, that's the postponement
Is
to
that your-
January.
I
We'll
need
just
a
do a
new
secondary
motion.
I
motion in
motion to
February.
move on from the postponements.
Is there a second?
Can't,
Mr. Miller?
pardon me, attorney, you can't motion for something.
Is this what you were elected for, Mr. Page?
Yes, it was.
And this is for the betterment of the town?
Yeah, we're gonna spend
Okay,
taxpayer
I doubt
money
that.
on something.
I doubt that. So, I have a motion and a second to move on.
I think the spirit of the motion was to move on from Mr. Page's postponement.
Yes.
I think that's.
Yes.
So the motion carries?
I think the council can discuss what was previously brought up without
Okay.
causing it.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Gormas to rebid the project per Manager Van Norbeck specs. Any
Have
more
a secondary
discussion?
motion.
And what is your secondary motion?
Table the item to the, later in the meeting.
So, I'm gonna, is no more discussion? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning
I've
with
made a
Mr.
secondary
Page.
motion.
I ask for a
Point of
roll call
order.
vote.
Point of
I will
procedure.
adjourn this meeting if you
Point of
will.
procedure, Mayor. I have made a proper motion to table this item until the end of the meeting, before the vote was come in the middle of your discussion. That is the point of procedure,
Okay,
Robert's
well,
rules
let's
that
see
we
if I can
follow.
get a second. Mr. Page has moved to postpone,
The table.
table this item until the conclusion of the business today. Is there a second? I don't hear a second, so that motion fails.
I think it just goes back to exactly what Jake just said, is the fact that we're gonna go advertise $200 million more when we know that it's not gonna pass. That's, and and see where Chris is coming, yes, it's not, but actually, us voting on the motion that is on the floor now, on Chris's substitute motion, but it's a big circle at that point too. So I think Chris is trying to get the point across, is the fact, now, I don't agree with dragging this out currently, but we're gonna drag it out the next meeting too, when we get new bids, because we don't have the votes there to do it. I will continue to vote against this. I had no clue Chris was gonna come up and change his vote about this orange ditch. Obviously, I know where Jake and I stand, but I see why are we gonna, and that's the council's decision, we can do it, advertise it, that's how the vote goes, but we're gonna spend $200, $300 for an ad to come back, turn the motion down yet again, and do this same thing.
Okay, so do you have a secondary motion, or are you making a
don't,
point?
I'm just
And
making
your
my
point
point.
is that this is a moot point to advertise if we don't have 5 votes. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. That's what
Council, does anyone
what
have
I'm
any
saying.
discussion?
I disagree. We should bid it out like the mayor recommended we do, because that's why we hire him.
Any other discussion?
We're still on my secondary motion. You seconded it to discuss it, right?
No.
It failed, so I started
I
discussing.
failed. I still have another secondary motion.
I think the council is made it clear, and I'm not gonna take any more motions
Some
from
of
it.
us have to get up and go to
Well,
work.
you haven't heard the motion, and it's illegal to make it. I motion that we approve the $58,490 bid.
Is there a second to approve the $58,000 bid from Gilmore Environmental, who has withdrawn
Oh, he
their bid?
withdrew. Okay, I would strike that. Another secondary motion. Motion that we approve the $95,597 bid from Pearson Construction.
Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote on rebidding the project. I'll start with a roll call vote with you, Mr. Page.
Nay.
Aye.
Voting to rebid. Voting to rebid.
Who's it on me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-3. Will you re-advertise, please, sir? Unfinished business number 4, personal property tax relief. Mr. Manager?
Well, I don't have anything that's exciting in that to share with you, but. Personal property tax at the last meeting, this is really an informational last meeting, before we got the budget, ad put together. I think there were some questions about what the property tax rate was gonna look like with the relief rate. The Commissioner Revenue and I sat down the next day and went over several different scenarios, and the advertised rate for personal property at a 49% relief. You can see Christie's little handwritten number, 49% there in the lower right-hand corner. And that's as close to the PPTRA reimbursement that we receive from the state now. And you can see that highlighted yellow in the top left corner, 57 cents. We advertise a 57 cent per $100 evaluation on personal property, and that includes a 49% personal property tax relief rate. And that's what has been advertised. More informational. I think you guys can modify, you can still change after the public hearing, but I don't think you can make it more. I think you can make it less, but I think that's about as close as we could get it the other day when we were sitting there. So we drop it down from 72 cents to 57 cents and change it from 60% relief to 49% relief.
So the message is that we're actually reducing our tax rate to the people that are watching.
You're actually reducing your rate. The intention is the net should remain the same collection.
Correct.
Okay. In order, if you gotta remember, we wanted to get from 60 to a lower rate on your relief, and the relief is
There's
reflected.
less relief, which means more income, which
That's why
means
the rate's going down.
119,000 more for the end.
No, it's not more, it's the total,
It's
119.
the same amount of revenue that we collected last year.
It's just clarifying, saying, showing that our rate's actually lower. If somebody wants to look at our rates.
And that's what Notaways is, isn't it?
I think their discussion was more based on the
They're sorting
real
out.
estate this year, but if you remember, they dropped from 60% down to 41%. Last year, I think, is the year that they did that.
But they didn't lower their rate at the same time. Yeah, so.
They would have to lower
They-
the rate.
they
but I think
essentially
they did
raised-
Last year, remember, there was a